Welcome back to some more Create Integrated. Now, last episode, we managed to automate the Wilden boss, believe it or not. But today, I want to finish up the Ars Institute, which is actually what I want to call this building. And I want to get some more Ars things automated and possibly use Ars to automate itself with some Starbuncles. But you know what, before we get started with all of that fancy automation and all the technical mumbo jumbo, I think it's time for us to probably build up onto this building. And the idea behind this building is to go with a block palette that's very similar to this one right here, where we have some stripped logs. We also have some calcite, some mushroom stems, and some white terracotta. Those will be blended together to build the actual structure. And then we've got to come up with a roof for this, which will either be similar to this or is going to be like another wood type. I'm still debating on whether or not I'm going to do that. But the idea, while we get to building this, is to have a tower also, and to have an elevator that is potentially right here from Create, and the elevator will take you up to the upper level, which will be in the tower section up here. I don't know, there's a lot I've got planned, but I've got to actually get to building it. Before we get to building it though, I am going to need more mushroom stems, and that means using the nature's compass to find myself a dark forest. And yes, it is quite far away, and that's where we'll hopefully find all of the mushrooms and or mushroom stems. I don't need a whole lot of them, I just need a few though. So yet again, off on another adventure. While I'm journeying here, by the way, I did want to mention, I am still working on updates for this mod pack, and there's a big one coming out soon. I already have the mod included in here. There is now a Steam and Rails update. And so I know we haven't touched on any trains, but Steam and Rails is now available in a sort of port version, not from the original developer, but we do have it in here now, and it should be in the next major update, so keep an eye out for that. And this isn't the biggest mushroom forest, but I mean, it is here, and we do have a couple of stems we can grab. After getting back, I've sort of rearranged my color palette, and I think I'm going to go with like, the stripped birch log, then we have the white terracotta mushroom stems, and I added eroded diorite, which I think fits and blends in really, really nicely right up against the calcite here. So all of this is going to be kind of the highlights here. I mean, I could even go as far as this. I just do feel like it does look a little bit better when blended more like that, where this is like a base color that leads all the way through these. So color palette decided. Now I've got to actually do the process of getting the building up and running. And so, as you might have guessed, another time lapse. And by the way, let me know down in the comments below, do you enjoy these time lapses, or do you feel like you enjoy the more explaining sort of build progressions? I would love to hear from you down in the comments below. But of course, well, without further ado, let's get on with today's time lapse and cue the music. And so there we go, the Ars Institute. Yes, where we are going to be doing a little bit of learning. This is also meant to sort of resemble like a school building, like an old school building, the ones that would have like a bell tower and all that fun stuff. So this is kind of what this is all set up to be. So let's get the things set up that we really want to get set up in here. As of right now, this is where I plan on doing some of the automation for our arcane pedestals. And then up here, I really, like I said, I want an elevator to lead up into this where we can have some other kind of fun thing going on. And then back here, of course, this is where the Wilden killing chamber is. This is something that I do want to keep clear because anything that is near where this thing spawns will get destroyed. So I had to make sure the roof was tall enough and everything, and I think it turned out all right. Let me know, of course, down in the comments below, if you enjoy the color palettes. Did I go a little bit too crazy? I don't know. There's a lot of options here, and I tried my best to gradient as best as I can. I'm not perfect at it, but I am learning, and I feel like I'm getting better over the years. So with the build out of the way, it's time to get into the meat and potatoes of today's episode. And so the thing that I want to try and do is I want to automate this right here, the arcane pedestal, or the enchanting apparatus as a whole. The goal here would be to get this automated, and I want to use some very special things to automate it. I think this would be really, really fun. And what special things could we potentially use to automate this with? Well, Ars itself, actually, by utilizing Starbuncles. Now I get it. You're probably wondering, Chosen, how in the world can we automate this with Starbuncles? Like, what gives us the ability to do that? Well, it's not as crazy as you might think, and it's probably not even going to be as difficult as you might think. Starbuncles are quite powerful, believe it or not. In the fact that they can, well, they can manipulate items, they can pull them around, they can move them around, they can pull items from inventories and then send them into containers. And they can even be filtered, and in this pack, they can be manipulated even further by sending power. They can also send fluids. They can be kind of a useful little creature down here. Now, I don't even think this is going to be very difficult for us to do. We are essentially going to need to tell our Starbuncle, pull things from an inventory, and then we need to tell the Starbuncle to send to several different inventories, and those inventories are actually going to be arcane platforms. These platforms right here. And we just need to tell it, hey, I need you to send items here, and then also send an item into here. And we need to make sure that the last item it does pull out of a container goes in here. And I would assume that this works much like any other mod, including hoppers, where it tries to pull the first item from left to right. That's how I would expect it to work. Now, ultimately, my goal is to automate the marks of technomancy. So to do this, we need to also automate the calibrated precision mechanism, which is also needed in this recipe. And we can request, or should be able to request, with our refined storage system. Now, before we get too carried away, let's go ahead and place a bed over here. I'm also going to place another bed here. And I do want the Starbuncle to be linked to this bed. I think we have to right click on here to store the entity. And then there we go. We can set the bed. And then I also want this Starbuncle. I want this one to go to this bed. Perfect. Then we need to control this. So what I want to do is this Starbuncle, I want it to pull from this inventory and then send to the pedestals here. Then I also want this Starbuncle to pull items out of the enchanting apparatus and put it into this barrel. This should be doable. We should be able to shift right click on this barrel and then right click on here. And that it says Starbuncle is going to take from this inventory. Then we can click on this Starbuncle and let's see, shift right click on here. And it's the Starbuncle will store items here. But I think it can store it to multiple locations, right? Storing to 2 locations. Yes, this is where things get powerful because it can distribute to multiple inventories. And because these can only hold one item at a time, I mean, that makes total sense. Like this should work perfectly here with our one Starbuncle. Oh man, I've not used Starbuncles too often, so kind of fun to be able to like have this whole thing set up. But there we go. We can now see all of the inventories that this Starbuncle is currently linked to. Nice. To get this one set up, remember we'll shift right click onto here and then right click onto this. That is going to take items out of here. And then we'll click on this guy and shift right click on the barrel. And now this is going to be pulling from here and sending into this barrel. Little Starbuncles are about to get to work. Now I am going to need to get a source jar set up. So I'm thinking we'll put the fluid source link like right here. with a source jar on top of that. That is going to be what receives the source. Then down below, we'll make sure to hook this up and drag some lava into this bad boy. There we go. And just get our refined storage connected into this, which is how we're going to ultimately automate all of this stuff. So floor is going in. I think things are almost done. There we go. I have my auto crafter right here, so that way we can inject the patterns. Just need to make sure this only sends one set at a time. So making sure that this is set to lock mode. And then we have the importer here to retrieve the items after this guy is done. So I think we're almost ready to build patterns and test this thing out. I really hope this functions. Now, the idea when building this pattern is that the middle item here is the last thing in the list, but by default, you can see that it is the first thing in the list. And we want to make sure that that is not the case. Otherwise, it is going to try and put it on those pedestals. And we want all the pedestals to be filled up before it does send that. So what we can say is we can take a mechanism, precision mechanism, and just drag that into the last slot here. That should allow this to work. That is, if they don't pull randomly from the container, which I don't think they will. And I am really hoping and relying on the fact that they won't. So also again, here we'll take our tribute. We can put that to the side. We'll remove that, scroll down, and then make sure the tribute is the last thing in the list. And then the output is going to be just fine. Okay, so now that we have all of these items, we've got to see if they work. I've got some really high hopes for these little starbuncles though. And yes, I really hope that this functions correctly. All right, first thing we need to do is request a mark of technomancy, and this should do all of the crafts and inject everything as it's supposed to. And when an item ends up in the barrel, oh, look at it go. Look at it go. Oh, it's doing it. And I think it is pulling from left to right. It is. Oh, wow. This opens up so many automation opportunities for the future. One thing I did not do is I did not tell it that this is the other inventory it needs to send to. So let's just go ahead and do that. Now that it knows that, it is going to start the final craft. Oh, and we can watch this happen. So it's going to take that item, and it did consume an entire source jar, by the way, to be able to do this. Finish. This guy now has a job, and that is to put all of them inside of here. And we just automated this setup with starbuncles. Like, it's adorable. I love it. Oh, this is great. And I probably should have used starbuncles in many mod packs prior to this one, just because of how cool this is. Like, I have made this setup way more complicated than it has ever needed to be with many other mods. You could just do it with starbuncles. I feel so dumb now. Now, something that you may want to know, how can you filter with these starbuncles? Well, you can make item scrolls right here. And you have allow item scrolls, and then you have deny. So you have like whitelist and you have blacklist, so you can prevent them from doing certain things. And there's also mimic scrolls, which I'm actually unsure how mimic scrolls work, but I'm sure it all is explained in the book. So this is interesting. This provides a list of items to automation related entities. And if you put the scroll inside of a chest that has an item frame with the item on it, I'm assuming it binds the ingredients for that item onto the scroll. This, I think, would be more useful for the auto crafting functionality that is built into Ars that, well, utilizes Wixies. And Wixies are things that you don't really see all that often, but they can perform auto crafts for you if the only mod you had was Ars. Now that is some fancy stuff right here. And I love that they just kind of snooze around. And we can take dyes, any of our dyes, by the way. I think starbuncles are the few things that can be dyed just about any color. So, I mean, we can definitely dye one cyan, and then we've got to dye one orange. Like, if they're laying in it, they've got to be dyed that color. The orange one, by the way, I think orange is its default color, but cyan, on the other hand, there we go. Look at that. There's a cyan starbuncle just snoozing. I wonder, by the way, if we rotate their bed and we place it facing the other direction, do they turn the other direction? I wonder. Like, if I place it like this, do you now go into this bed and not face the wall and look kind of sad? Okay. It may just be like the way they walk into it. But now, you know what's awesome? Because we have technomancies automated, we can now make all of the tier 3 glyphs. Now I've got all of my marks of technomancy needed, and I've got all of the other required ingredients. Let's go ahead and toss this in. And we are going to need 22 of these scrolls, I believe. So as of right now, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Oh boy. 18, 19, 20, and then 21. And I'll throw that in there, 22. I think there's 21 to be exact, but there we go. We now get to learn, randomly of course, all of the glyphs. Summon decoy. Oh man, this is great. And including all of the extra modded ones that are tier 3. Tier 3 glyphs. These are the powerful ones. Man. And I can't believe I waited this long to do all of this. I should have done this way earlier in the series. Yes, 480 XP orbs. Now that we have learned all of them, congratulations. All of our spells are now unlocked. And it's essentially like we have a creative spell book, because all of our spells that we have available to us in this pack should now be completely unlocked. And now we gain access to Obliterate, which sounds absolutely ridiculous. How many amplifies can we put on this? We can max out amplifies on Obliterate. This is supposed to like summon a hammer that like attacks foes for us. So we've got to have a test subject. Oh my goodness. Did you see that? A giant hammer was summoned. Just down on the mob. Oh man, I've got to get a test on me so we can see how much power this deals. Like, I wonder if this even registers on this. Oh, 35 damage is really good. That is absolutely absurd. Now, apparently, if you augment this with sensitive, it's supposed to be able to crushing wheel things. And I don't know how much we need, but like if we take some cobble, for example, and we toss it on the ground, it's supposed to work like a crushing wheel. Oh wait, if I turn my magnet off, and there's a little, it's a mini version. Oh, that's adorable. But it does crush, it crushed the whole stack. And so I would assume it would also work with something like raw iron, for example. Oh, and it does give the XP. So it's doing the exact same rolls that you would expect from a crushing wheel. This is so cool. I'm falling in love with Ars Technica. Another thing I was wondering, can this potentially void things? Okay, so no, it didn't actually void any of that, which is kind of interesting. And the amplify makes the hammer larger in scale, by the way. That's really neat. And I mean, we get a lot of glyphs here. We get a glyph for the tier 3, a superheating glyph, which seems absolutely awesome. I mean, when combined with the fuse, it can superheat ingredients for us. And I think we can use spell turrets, by the way, with these, and you could potentially set up some automation with this. Now, with the power of these tier 3 spells under my belt, I also want to set up that elevator. Remember, I wanted to set up a create elevator that takes you up here and allows you to pop off and visit the upstairs area. I think this is going to be a really nice detail to this build. To do this, we need an elevator pulley. Now, with that elevator pulley, we actually have to build the elevator itself and glue it all together. A little tip: if you want this to have this really nice like platform utilizing scaffolding, break out the blocks underneath. We can replace those later because we want it to retain the scaffolding shape like this and not actually be transparent. So this is kind of making like a scaffolding floor. And then we can take like shafts on the corners. This is a pretty good like corner block, and build it up as high as you would think that the elevator should be. So yeah, a couple of blocks taller than you probably would stand is usually a good idea. And then I think for me on top, I'm going to line this with these glass panels on the top. And I think this is going to make a really nice outline, just as like a basic topper. Then to give it a nice sturdy feel, I'm going to place some larger blocks on the top, and then also place a block right here. And then I can outline this and kind of add some copycat blocks to kind of thin this out a little bit. Or you know what? Instead of copycat blocks, why don't I just like place shafts here? Yeah, we do something like this, make it a little fancy on the top. Now, one thing you can't forget is to put a desk bell in here. That way, every time it reaches its destination, it rings the bell like this. And now for the hard part, how the elevator actually functions. So in this position right here, we are going to need a redstone contact. And we need to make sure these redstone contacts meet. So this is going to be one position for a redstone contact, and this is the other. And then this is actually what determines the floor level that we want this to go to. So also, again, we want this to be another floor. So I need a redstone contact right here that this is going to enter into with. And then the way we select our floor with an elevator is with contraption controls. I'm just going to make sure this faces the correct way. So when we walk into here, this is our contraption controls ready to go. And I want to make this safe. So I'm going to add some fence, utilizing some Ars fencing, just like so. And now when this is a contraption, we can control the opening of the door. So there we go. We have a nice little elevator built. I just got to get this thing glued together. And so I'm going to take the whole thing. You know what? Might as well just do the entire thing if we can. Just glue the whole section together like that. And then we'll wrap around, gluing this together. And then we'll click on the bottom and glue this together. And so there we go. We have an entire thing set up and glued, ready to get set up. So now we've got to measure this out. So this is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blocks tall. And we've got to get our elevator pulley set up at least 6 blocks tall here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up an arm that reaches out right about here, give or take. And then we'll set in our actual pulley, and we can actually rotate this. I'm unsure the direction. I think right here will be good, so that way I can get some power up to this. Now we're almost there. I want to actually use a source motor to power this. I think this would be amazing, like an amazing use of this. So to get source to this, we could also now make an ender source jar, which I think would be a nice utility for the ender source jar to give this motor power. And this is yet again another cool thing that we can just automate with these guys. Just look at them go. Ah, this is so cool. And then there's the final item, and ender source jar is ready to go. And so ender source jar, I'm going to actually place this right back here, and that should fill up, I believe, unless we actually need to send source to it via... No, there we go. Yeah, it does just fill up with source. That is going to be perfect. So now the goal is to place this like right on top of here. And, oh, actually make sure it's an ender source jar. And with that, this is now full, which then provides this with source. And now we've just got to configure this so that way we get the appropriate stress sort of balance. We don't want this to have a whole lot of stress, and we don't want it to be consuming a whole lot of source. So we need to kind of configure this. And remember, we do this with a speedometer, so we can take this and start to scroll this down. And we want this to be as low as possible. This does not require a whole lot of RPM or a whole lot of stress to actually run. So if we set it to like 32, I think 64 is also a really good speed for elevators. So yes, we set that there. 256 is all it requires. This costs so little source to run. And it is utilizing that ender tank. Oh, that is so good. So now that we have some rotation and we have this glued together, we can right click this and that will form the elevator. And now all we have to do is walk into the elevator, select our floor to go up one, and up we go. And then we can hop out and we're good to go. We've made it to the next level. This is beautiful. And I don't know, this is the stuff that I really love about Create, really love about Modded. And it is a beauty, is a work of art. Now, something you definitely want to do after you do the whole floor, make sure you take some planks or whatever you built your floor out of and fill this bad boy back in. So it looks nice. It's just going to rest there. And so long as you don't turn the contraption off, like decontraption it, you should be fine. Now, if it's ever up top and you need to get down, what I recommend doing is putting a button so that way you can call this. So if we put a button here, I hit the button, that has now called the elevator back down and we're good to go. Now, you should definitely let me know what I should do with this upstairs area down in the comments below. I would love to hear from you, so be sure to let me know. And well, with that, we have now completed our Ars Institute. Well, for the most part. And I hope you enjoyed the build. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I hope you learned something new. If you did, be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and give this video, guys, a huge thumbs up. And with that being said, it's time for me to thank the amazing supporter that makes these episodes possible. And that huge thanks is going to go out to Sarita. Thank you so much for your amazing support and choosing to support me over on the Discord by becoming a Discord premium member and supporting my content in one of the best ways possible. And guys, I look forward to seeing you in whatever the next video is. And as always, thanks for watching.